Good morning, friends. Happy Sunday and welcome, of course, to Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. We got some handsome gentlemen joining me on screen, and we've got some fine folks joining us in the comments on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Of course, if you're in there, feel free to give us your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your queries, and anything in between coming up or has happened in professional wrestling over the past week, because there's lots not only over the past 7 days, but lots of cool stuff coming up over the next week. We've got a potential debut of one CM Punk. We've got SummerSlam. And, of course, all of the news coming out of Triple Mania, the NWA, and everything in between. Before we get to that, though, we've got to give a quick shout-out to RK Athletics, the official sponsor of all the live content we've got going on here at Love Wrestling. Make sure to give them a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at RK Athletics 1. Not only do you get access to some online physical fitness advice, but if you're in the Edmonton area, make sure you take advantage of the fact that we are able to get in for some one-on-one personal training. That's RK Athletics 1 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm sure you're going to see us plug them all the time on our social media because you're already following us at Love Wrestling CA. We'll plug ourselves later, though. We're going to ask how everybody's doing, starting with the gentleman immediately below me, partially because that's the easiest way for me to point. I was going to point at Parrish, but I always screw that up. So, Lawrence, I'm going to ask you how you doing, man. How are things?
I'm doing great. Had really excited about this week in wrestling. Nothing too much other going on.
Well, excellent. Beautiful. Bobby Munson sitting there in the bottom middle. How you doing, brother? I think this is your first Sunday brunch experience, if I remember correctly.
First Sunday experience indeed. Yeah, glad to be here. Excited. It's bright and sunny outside. So I'm ready to go. Ready to talk some wrestling with all you guys. This is going to be a fun time.
I completely agree, man. Mighty Joe Morin, or Mighty Farm Equipment Morin, as coined on Blowing Off stream last night. I ain't gonna let it die. It's like Pluggo being Wilbur now. I kind of combined them there with Plugger, but we're all just getting new names. It is what it is. How you doing, friend? How are things?
For sure. I guess I'm now a piece of farm equipment. You're sus. We had got the running gag with Zach with Mr. Starlight, Starbright. I believe that's how it's referred to as. And we also have. I mean, it's cool to have all kind of these running gags going on.
I completely agree. Alex, good to see you as well, friend. How you doing, handsome?
Doing pretty good. Handsome, I don't know is the word, but we'll figure out a better one. I'm also excited to see what's going to happen this week of wrestling. So yeah,
You and I both. And of course, last but not least, my partner on shows, my fellow POS show co-host. See what I did there? That wasn't bad for improvising that. Parrish, how you doing, man? How you feeling after some pure power wrestling over the last weekend?
Pure power exhausted right now, but at the end of the day, that's what happens when you go 35 minutes with the champ. So it's all good. It was nice just to get back and get in front of the crowd. So yeah,
That's awesome.
things
man.
are rolling.
That's your
and
first.
things are getting exciting.
That's your first match back with PPW, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah,
I know
like
you've
a
done the
year.
stuff with the CWE. That's awesome, man. I am glad to hear. And throwback, we are glad to see you hopping in the comments. You are certainly welcome to join on a future Sunday brunch. In fact, maybe this Sunday coming up is a good time because personally speaking for myself and JPJ, who are going to SummerSlam this weekend, I don't think we will be in any condition to be joining in any live streaming or anything of the sort, especially not the next morning. I'm sure we could pull up some sort of show when we are on the day of, but that after is going to be a little bit tough to say the least. But we'll talk about SummerSlam coming up here. Of course, if you guys have any topics, any comments, anything you guys want to chat about from the past week or the upcoming next few weeks in pro wrestling, throw them out there because we've got a couple ideas of what to talk about, but we want to make sure that the fine folks in the comments sections are getting their proverbial stuff in. But last night, of course, guys, I think I want to kick off, and feel free to jump in. Feel free to throw your suggestions out there as well. But I want to kick it off with Triple Mania. I know you guys have a lot of catching up to do as far as actually watching it for a lot, but let's just get real here. We're all members of the internet wrestling community. We all saw spoilers coming out of it. And the biggest, of course, Ric Flair accompanying Andrade to the ring. I don't want to talk a ton about the match because, again, I don't really want to spoil for anybody who hasn't watched, who has avoided spoilers, anything like that out there. But I think we're pretty safe in saying not only is this pretty out there, but it's pretty effing awesome, right? So, Alex, I'll turn to you because you were one of the last individuals we asked how they were doing. What are your thoughts on Slick Rick showing up in AAA?
it is. They say that the forbidden door has been opened, and this is definitely one of those moments where you're just kind of like, oh wow, this is happening. We've got Ric Flair in Triple Mania. We've got Kenny Omega versus Andrade. It's definitely an exciting time to be a wrestling fan.
Completely agree. Mighty Joe, what are your thoughts? How did you enjoy it? Well, was it as surreal for you as it was for me to see Ric Flair and Kenny Omega in the same ring?
Pretty surreal. I have not actually had a chance to sit down and watch Triple Mania. That's on the docket for today. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see people spreading their wings outside of the WWE. They've been kind of cast aside, and now the doors have swung wide open to basically essentially do whatever they want. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit too, but I mean, Resurgence, basically a show co-promoted by 5 different companies, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, All Elite, Major League Wrestling, New Japan Pro. It's really cool to see all of these people and companies working together and just get the wrestling world talking, just like we are here today. So it's really cool, man, and I'm excited to see just what kind of shenanigans we can pull off here. It's fun, and it's interesting to see all this kind of stuff that hopefully even some stuff that is really out there that we would never accept, like maybe like Charlotte maybe having an independent wrestling scene, which I would be all for that. And I think it's more likely than people are expecting. I think it's a bigger possibility than some people are thinking.
I don't disagree. Ed, good to see you in the comment section. Thanks for hopping in. And of course, Conrad from EPW Show. Good to see you. And I'm appreciative of you tuning into the Jeff Jarrett highlights we sent out. We've got a couple coming up throughout the show, so make sure you stick through. That'll also be released in full first thing tomorrow morning. It was a blast. I can't put it any better, Joe. I know you and I talked about this because you've chatted with them before as well. But what a good dude. And we talked a little bit about his recovery after his treatment. And it's always I hate like the cliche word of inspirational, but getting to pick his brain on that sort of stuff, getting to pick his brain on like a cameo in Spring Breakers, we really touched on everything to say the least. So thank you there, Lawrence. I'm gonna turn to you, friend. Which potential dream match are you most excited for? Ric Flair versus Sting 35 or Ric Flair versus Conan?
I'm more excited to see what he's going to do outside of like he's still a 70-something-year-old man who nearly died a couple years ago. Like I am excited, like I'm happy for what he's going to be doing potentially as Andrade's what could be third manager after Vicky, Chavo, and now him. But like I'm excited for what he's going to do outside the ring now that he's outside of WWE, because I'll be honest, the stuff that he's doing there was bordering on incredibly creepy and super weird, like dating girls like he could be their grandfather.
Nail
like,
meathead, yeah.
Yeah, like this is obviously creatively much better for him as just being the legend Ric Flair and sort of like helping shepherd somebody like Andrade, who also looks like that dude of like the
god, his entrance gear last night was nuts. I know it's if it's not the same, then it's very similar to the same gear that he used to debut with AEW, but man, it's so good. Throwback, a great point in there as well. Flair could be this generation's Bobby Heenan if he wanted to be. Managerial wise, like I see the stable comparison, but like, you know, if Bobby Heenan ain't the greatest of all time, he is certainly on that Mount Rushmore. So two very different goats, if you ask me. Parrish, your thoughts, your comments, your insight as far as Ric Flair, I think this was his Triple Mania debut. Had to be, right?
Yeah.
Imagine,
Yeah. I just also find it funny that there's a show in Mexico with Andrade who has a Guerrero as his manager, and he comes out with the white dude.
Well, and he literally is part of the show. And again, I don't want to spoil because I don't know how much people have watched either on here or in the comments, but he I think it was to try and establish himself in some sort of heel way, because he had basically kicked Conan out. He had said, I don't want you to accompany me to the ring. I've got someone more important as part of a backstage promo. But like, that seems like a heel move. But like you said, he's in Mexico and he's bringing out Ric Flair. How's he supposed to be a heel, right?
Sure, but is the Guerrero family not one of the, or if not the most...
but like
biggest.
I do have an opportunity to use Ric Flair. You use Ric Flair.
That's exactly it. Ric Flair is potentially the biggest name in wrestling,
especially in an.
I understand it, but like to me, this is a scenario where you could have just both, and I'm sure Guerrero appearance would be appreciated in Mexico.
Sure.
So was I. You know, we're gonna go in circles, but so was a Flair. Also, Andrade is his future father-in-law. That would likely play into it. There's a great shout. I'll take Flair with Ricky Starks 100%. That would be a hell of a pairing. And we'll go around quickly maybe, because there are a couple other things I want to touch on from Triple Mania last night. But Parrish, actually, you know what, Bobby? We didn't really touch on your opinion. So we'll not only get your thoughts on Ric Flair, but let's maybe get somebody outside of Andrade that you would want to see Ric Flair managing now that he's outside of the WWE.
See, I believe that Andrade needs a manager. I don't think that Ric Flair or anybody that they put him with currently is the right choice, because these guys are way too over to the point where they're not a heel. So if you're going to present Andrade as a heel character, you kind of need a perfect heel manager to back him up. These guys are way too over with the wrestling audience that when you start bringing them out, Andrade playing heel doesn't work along with the babyface pop that they're getting for the manager that comes out with them. I would love to see Ric Flair in a role as a manager. Of course, he's got the personality to back it up. I'm really not sure who the right choice is, but you want someone who's going to turn into your next big baby face, I think, is who you want to back Ric Flair up with in a managerial role.
Fair call. Parrish, I'll move to you next.
Yeah, the one thing I say about Ric Flair is he always has a tendency, anytime he speaks, to always turn it around about him, because that's his mindset. Like, he's a wrestler at heart. And that's kind of like, I don't think he's the best talker for somebody else. I think he's a really good personality. So I wouldn't actually mind to see him sometimes in like a little bit of like a guest announcer like role. Like that would actually kind of be nice to get a little bit of an insight. Too. But in terms of like what Bobby said about like for Andrade, like Andrade needs to be built up, and that's why like Zelina Vega works so well for him, because that's exactly what she did. And when she could, she did things for him to elevate him. She put herself in a position to take a blow for him. But it was all about Andrade, and that's what we need. We need somebody to take those selfless acts for him. We don't need somebody
That pairing
to kind of
was too
overshadow.
damn perfect.
Yeah, but
It was so good.
But that's exactly what he needs. He needs somebody that is able to do things for him.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman type is a guy like that because he doesn't really emphasize and take the shadow away. Like he always puts the spotlight on his, quote unquote client. So somebody
Well,
like that.
Alex,
kind of stealing the spotlight from almost sisters. I mean, he's Ric Flair. I mean, it kind of almost completely overshadows Andrade himself, right?
well, and sometimes, like, let's get real. Obviously, the guy's a great talker, like you said, but he's also the kind of guy that he could just walk out in a t-shirt and jeans, and people are going to be excited to see him, right? So,
I mean,
Joe, maybe I'll. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say he's one of the most influential figures of all pro wrestling, where a lot of people mimic whether his dances, his catchphrases, and by trying to introduce somebody new, you're going back to nostalgia almost all the time instead of focusing on what the actual play is.
I do think, and it's part of a larger discussion, and I want to wrap this one before we get to some Double J action. But I do think that All Elite thus far has done a very good job with using their legends. I think lately that might not be as great. Like, I wasn't a big fan of the 4-man commentary booth on Friday night, but at the same time, like, Vicky Guerrero, just to use the example we've brought up earlier, she hasn't been in there and making it about her. She's been there to accentuate Andrade. I think Sting has only added to what Darby Allin's done, right? I think that I'm maybe a little more hesitant saying this now because I'm I can't say I'm looking all that forward to Paul White versus QT Marshall, but there have been more instances than not where I think they've brought the legends in and used them in a positive, accentuating way rather than the way. I don't disagree with what you're saying about a guy like Flair who could potentially come in and overshadow some stuff. But, Mighty Joe, who do you want to see Ric Flair potentially not overshadow as manager in the near future, whether for All Elite or anyone else? Let's maybe open this up to the independents and some other areas that old Slick Rick may be able to work.
So yeah, I think we kind of hit on something here. I'm as big of a Ric Flair fan as you can possibly get. I think that he is very likely one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. When it comes to actually managing another wrestler, I think that regardless of who it is, it's going to completely overshadow who he's there to manage. You just have him be like a personality around the product. He doesn't have to actually manage somebody. You just have him be somebody who's backstage just causing shenanigans, for lack of a better term, or occasionally on commentary. And just have him be that personality that's just kind of kicking around. And of course, you can obviously use his mind when it comes to booking and so yeah, matches and whatnot. But as for actually managing a certain wrestler, I'm not sure if it's a great idea for whatever that talent is, because I mean, how do you look better than Ric Flair? Right?
It's a fair point.
Almost impossible.
It is a fair point. Good to see you, Andre, hop in. I am a fan of Brunch as well, and I don't hate that comment. Parrish is a pretty great guy. He's carrying the title, and I like to think I'm pretty cool too. I'll start playing then. Why not? Jay Lethal. I want to see them paired together because that promo was my favorite thing that Ric Flair did outside of WWE the last time. Having those two together, Black Machismo and Ric Flair together, would be fantastic. I know it completely tears away from everything the Foundation is doing right now, but screw it. I'm fantasy booking here. I don't mind it whatsoever. Lawrence, moving to you.
Yep. Ooh, I'm not like there's like so many good options at this point and so many companies for him to work with. Like, it's hard to narrow it down necessarily to one, but like I'm excited to potentially see him do a 4 Horsemen thing with Arn and everyone else in AEW. Like, there's the potential there to for them to either have the people they work with wrestle each other.
Yeah, that's a really great shout. You have the Revival. You've got Cody maybe team with Dustin or something along
Yeah.
those lines, and Slick Rick comes in with Andrade, and I don't know, someone
Yeah.
new. Alex, we'll let you close this one out after we give a shout to Throwback. Flair and Jay White. Flair in New Japan would be interesting. I believe that is one place he hasn't gone to. Mighty Joe, I'm going to go to you on this one because you are our resident New Japan guy. Has Ric Flair ever done anything for New Japan Pro Wrestling?
I mean, he's done things in Japan, maybe not specifically for New Japan. I'd have to go back and look at the history books. But when it comes to him and Jay White, sorry, Throwback, but that's a hard no on that one. Jay White does not need any help personality or piece-wise. He can do it all himself, and he's one of the best at it right now. You keep the two separate. I mean, maybe head-to-head against each other, but not together. It wouldn't work.
I think maybe the thought there is that, like, he's one of those guys that really, like you said, Joe, he wouldn't be overshadowed by Ric Flair at this point because he is so damn good. Alex, we'll let you close it out, and then we're going to get to a quick Double J highlight.
Yeah, as far as, Ric Flair, he definitely is a spice you could put into a pot, and he could be a good flavor in there. But as far as, like, putting him with somebody, I'm going to have to agree with everybody, he's going to overshadow unless it's the right person. But going to Throwback, who wouldn't love to see Ric Flair coming out in a Bullet Club shirt? Just for maybe not, managing anybody or being a mouthpiece for anybody, but just let's see it once,
The Flair Club.
Yeah,
I
the
would
Flair Club.
absolutely love it. Parrish hopping in the comments. You
Same
stud,
thing
you.
again.
MJF could be a good fit. I wouldn't mind that whatsoever.
I was
maybe
actually
Ric
gonna say that
Flair.
one.
Maybe Ric Flair is the sixth labor, but we'll get to that in the future because I'm just going to let that one hang throughout the break.
I don't think Ric Flair needs any more labors. I'll say it. He is way too old for this.
No, okay. Okay, that was well played. We'll let that one hang over the break. It's a highlight. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
MJF going head-to-head with Ric Flair, like in a promo, or that'd be good. Working together, again, MJF doesn't need the help.
That's completely fair, too.
Nobody
Let's take her
views
to
her
a quick break here. I've got some coffee refill of brewing, and I would like to take myself up on that. So this one will last about a minute and a half, friends. I sent it out on Friday on social media, so feel free to give us a follow at Love Wrestling CA if you want some advanced stuff, too, before the Sunday brunch. CM Punk may or may not be coming to AEW this Friday as well. Let's get Jeff Jarrett's thoughts. But I am going to single out one person because I'm sure you've heard the rumors by this point. What are your thoughts on a potential CM Punk return to All Elite Professional Wrestling?
Punk, I'm as a performer or promoter, I'm most excited about is to say that absence makes the heart grow fonder is pretty much goes for everyone. But man, in this type of scenario, it's been a minute since he's stepped into the world of professional wrestling and people, the UFC and that, but him re-entering the industry, and yes, he did some Fox stuff, but I mean, like what you're tabling here, it's going to be a special moment because not many times do you see a guy that rose to his heights that dipped out and is now returning.
Yeah.
The curiosity factor alone is through the roof. And then it is, how's it going to be done? The timing's going to be done. Who's going to be that first opponent? How's the crowd going to accept him or his opponent or the story? Just all those kind of things. And then, when I put on my executive producer cap, you start thinking it's one of those things. And I went into this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, like our industry is so cool. And I think it's one of the biggest things that attracts me. 52 weeks a year. And look, yes, and I saw somebody said people need time off. I agree, but the content being produced 52 weeks a year is fantastic. And there's always next week. So what's happening next week? Is Punk coming next week or the following week or the following week? And then no matter what happens, we're all going to sit back and either praise it or whatever it may be. But then there's going to be the next week and then the next week. And that's kind of really cool. But I'm excited. I like I said just a second ago, the business in so many ways is super red hot. And I
Yep.
couldn't be more excited.
Double J, Jeff Jarrett, ain't he great? He is also someone who will be my full-length interview this week on Love Wrestling. That drops tomorrow. We've got another highlight that hasn't been released coming up in about 20 minutes time here on Love Wrestling. But in between that, I figure it's a nice little transition to another piece of news from the last week. Jeff Jarrett, a 6-time NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, and the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship will be on the line at the end of the month at NWA 73. Nick Aldis will be defending it for the second time against Trevor Murdoch, among a great set of matches on the card. Who do I want to turn to first? But is there anything you're particularly excited about NWA 73? Empower, of course, some announcements coming up on that end as well last week. Or anything in between from the National Wrestling Alliance. And if not, I'm going to pick on somebody. So somebody take the ball. Bobby, to you.
Okay, Bobby. I'm a little bit behind on my NWA, so this is kind of news to me. But I mean, I can't help but be excited about any of it coming out of there. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff going on. Can we just say that Nick Aldis has got to be one of the most fantastic world champions in all of professional wrestling right now? In fact, has made the NWA championship one of the most prestigious with the run that he's had and the opponents that he's had lined up. So, I mean, in any capacity that Nick Aldis defending the NWA championship on a pay-per-view is nothing but great news for the wrestling community at whole. Nick Aldis conducts himself well as a champion. He conducts himself well in his matches, and has had some of the best matches overall over the past couple of years in all of professional wrestling, in my humble opinion.
Don't disagree with you at all, man. Like, All In was absolutely nuts. His 2 matches, I suppose, with Cody were fantastic. I'm real excited for this one. I'm real excited for Trevor Murdoch still. And I do know that there have been maybe some complaints about, the 30-day suspension that he was handed as part of the build to this one. And, some of the little things like that. But I'm a big Trevor Murdoch fan. I think that the guy, it's cliche to say, but the guy truly represents the blue collar nature of the NWA. It's the everyman versus the I don't know how you put it, the Titan of the NWA, because that guy's at 1,030 or something days on his championship run. Absolutely insane at this point. Who do I want to turn to next? Who's excited about NWA 73? Does anybody want me to read the card off?
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that.
I'll give it to you, Alex. I will give it to you after, however, I read the card off. What we've got, we talked about Nick Aldis versus Trevor Murdoch. We've got the NWA National Championship. We've got Chris Adonis, formerly known as Chris Masters, defending against James Storm, which is going to be interesting as heck. The NWA Tag Team Championships, Aaron Stevens and Kratos are going to defend against La Rebellion, Mecha Wolf and Basita. We've got Camille versus Layla Hirsch for the NWA Women's Championship. We've also got Mickey James versus Kylie Ray. We've got Tom Latimer versus Crimson versus Storm in what's being called the Brawl in the Lou, which is fun. Tyrus, I read his name. Sorry, everyone. Persona non grata, Masked Man, and Jordan Clearwater versus Pope, Odinson, and Perro, and then a 12-man battle royal, the winner of which earns a shot at the NWA National Championship. I apologize for my awkwardness in reading that. It's harder to read off the phone while you're staring into a ring light than I thought it would be. And I struggled. I very clearly struggled there, and I apologize to everybody viewing. Feel free to make fun of me in the comments, and as always, feel free to encourage to get your thoughts in on the NWA card. Alex, like I said, man, I'm picking on you. I tried to vamp for as long as I could to give you your time to collect your thoughts. But what do you think about that NWA 73 card?
So it is no hidden fact that I am just now catching up on live wrestling. Unfortunately, NWA is also one of those things I'm just catching up on. But from what I have seen, Aldis has been doing a phenomenal job holding the 10 pounds of gold. He's had matches with James Storm, Colt Cabana, Cody Rhodes, just to name a few, and every one of them has been a banger. And I think this Murdoch Aldis match 2 is going to be even better than the first one.
Ouch. Maybe Spence needs the wordsmith to fill in for him. You know what? I wouldn't complain about that at all, because let me tell you, if you haven't had the opportunity to yet, folks, when this is finished, because we want you to stay tuned for what we've got coming up, the discussion we've got for the next half hour for you, but make sure you head to our YouTube channel. I shouldn't even say the wordsmith made his triumphant return to Love Wrestling yesterday, hosting Word Slam Part 2, the second one. It was fantastic. I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it, as I am going to enjoy this card personally. I can't tell you how excited I am for Adonis and James Storm. Like, I don't even think I need to sell James Storm to anybody out here. Like, we all know how I like my pro wrestling. I like it to be blue-collar, badass dudes beating the hell out of each other, but I really think that Chris Adonis is a guy as far as his pro wrestling goes. And, you know, Chris Masters and obviously the Master Lock Challenge and everything that he had early in his professional wrestling career, everyone's well versed in. But man, that guy's good right now. He's really, and it feels cliche to say on my end, but that guy's really matured as far as his timing, just his you know, something I'm really not qualified to say as a non-pro wrestler, but the ability that guy's got to tell a story in the ring versus maybe early in his career where it was master lock or bust, for lack of a better way to put it sometimes. It's real cool. I'm real excited for this one because both those guys can sort of, you know, they've both got their strengths. James Storm's a brawler. Chris Masters is a real technical professional wrestler, but they can both work each other's style in a way that I think will be complementary, if that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. Yeah. And I'm never going to be sad about Kylie Ray in the ring. Man, I'm just happy she's back. You know, and obviously I'm not even, and I don't want anyone to speculate really on any mental health issues or what she may have gone through on her end. That's hers and hers alone. But man, anytime she's in the ring, you can't help but be happy. And she's damn terrific at it too. Her and Mickie James is going to absolutely tear it up. Real excited. Real excited. Parrish, moving to you next, friend. What are your thoughts?
No, I think it's really interesting to see with the addition of Mickie James, just how she is going to influence the crop of women in that division, because she has the pedigree to say she's been there, done that in so many different realms. She's possibly one of the greatest women's wrestlers we've seen in the last few decades, and she still has a lot to give. So the fact that she still has that name value, she still has that pedigree, she still commands that respect for the people coming after her. It's really cool to see what she can do to help elevate that division, because I think right now, I mean, yeah, we talk about, like you're saying, the Kaylee Rays and everyone else, like, because we're fans of that new generation. There's still a good crop of people that don't know. And with Mickie James, she's attaching her mainstream name to the NWA, which is a mainstream name and a very historic company. So it's going to be really interesting to see how she influences a next revelation of that women's division in NWA. And yeah, I'm now curious, given the fact that we're getting up there with the Nick Aldis title reign, who's going to be the guy that comes after him? Because I think that's a very important next chapter for NWA. Who's that next guy? Because Nick Aldis can't be the guy all the time and forever. So it's really interesting if who's going to take that opportunity and move forward. And that is what I'm curious with, because it's really a good chance for everyone to kind of just step up their games and kind of prove themselves and prove their worth.
I completely agree, man. And the thing with Aldis too, and I understand where the complaints come from on, oh, he's a forever champion, yada yada yada. But when I spoke with him, like he was adamant that he's a story guy. If it's something that'll do well for him and the NWA as a whole, he's happy to do it. Like, again, I hate to keep going back to the well with this one, but you saw it at All In. When you can do good business and you can make a moment for people, that's the right time to drop a championship like the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. I just don't think, and it's not a shot at the NWA or anything. Like I said, I'm a Trevor Murdoch guy, but there have been some really good stories, but there hasn't been that story yet. And I think it's coming, don't get me wrong, but I'm in the same boat. I really don't know. There are a lot of great potential opponents. Realistically beat Nick Aldis for the NWA World's Championship right now.
I have something I want to put out there. That might just be me.
I'm always happy
We
to
s-
hear it. In fact, you know what,
we-
Parrish? We haven't done this in a while. We're throwing you to the big
Oh.
screen for it.
You get to see the bags under my eyes now.
Don't worry, it's
But
so
we
that
just
you
saw-
don't see the bags under mine.
But we just saw Ric Flair back, and when I'm thinking about the NWA and I'm thinking about the world's heavyweight title, it's really hard not to think about Ric Flair. We're talking about potential guys that could take on Nick Aldis for the NWA title. Why not give us a return of Ric Flair into NWA, but to give us Nick Aldis versus Andrade for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship?
I got a lot of time for that, Parrish. I'm going to be honest with you though. I was frightened and terrified that you were going to say I want to see Aldis versus Flair.
I know. I had to take you down
when
a
you
road.
said
But I mean, think about
when you said there, why not give us Aldis and Flair? Like I was literally just going to scream. He's like 76 years old. That's why.
Hey, he
But
can take
it's
a bump
okay to
off
bring
of
back
that.
Goldberg, right? No.
If Christian can win a world title, says idiots on the internet. Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Oh my
cool
god!
would it
If
be?
Christian can win a world title, why can't Ric Flair? Like, oh my god!
How
I saw
cool would it
somebody
see?
too.
How cool would it be just to see Ric Flair back in NWA though? Like that's
I
a
think it'd be
sight that I
great.
don't think
I
a
think
lot of
it'd be
people.
great.
I mean, if we want to talk about pure nostalgia for a lot of old school wrestling fans, just seeing Ric Flair in the same room as that world championship one more time, that's pretty empowering. Pun
It
intended.
makes me nicely done.
Thank you.
It's quite literally persona non grata, but like Ric Flair and Austin Idol having a promo battle again would be absolutely dang terrific. I got a lot of time for Austin Idol. Anybody else? Lawrence, I don't think I've asked you on the NWA end. Mighty Joe, I saw your hand raised there too. So why don't we go to Lawrence, then we'll go to Mighty Joe, and then we'll go to Double J Jeff Jarrett with some thoughts on Owen Hart, the Intercontinental Championship, and a couple of things in between as we hit our second break here in about 4 minutes on the old Sunday brunch.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about Camille and Layla Hirsch. Just the hilarious dichotomy of those two. I feel that's going to be a great women's wrestling match coming up there. Like Layla Hirsch, super underrated, doesn't get much time on AEW, but is an excellent wrestler. And I think they're going to put on a great match. It's like one that people might brush over on this card, but I think it's actually going to be a really, really good match between the two.
Yeah. Mighty Joe, moving to you.
All right, so for NWA 73rd, so around here, it's no secret that Mighty Joe likes surprises. So having said that, for me, I think that the most intriguing thing is this 12-man battle royal is going to be for the NWA National Championship to be the number one contender for that. We don't know anybody that's going to be in it. So with the proverbial, forbidden door swinging wide open, I mean, it's wide open who can be in this match. So I'm intrigued, and I want to very curious to see who will show up at this. Because, like I said, I love me some surprises, and this one could be chock full of them.
Well, and we are getting close, I would have to assume, to a few of the more recent 90-day clauses being up.
Yeah.
That leaves some nice room for some individuals. But let's hop to a highlight. I'm trying to click through, so I'm vamping. We're going to chat some Owen Hart with Jeff Jarrett, and it's a bit of a somber topic, obviously, but it's an Albertan talking to Jeff Jarrett about Owen Hart. How can I not highlight that? So here we go, friends. We'll see you in about a minute and a half. You love to hear it. And somebody else, obviously, that you obviously went into a lot of detail as well on my world is Owen Hart. I don't think I need to speak to his ribs or even anything involving everything around the situation. But I did want to ask you, what was it like, or what did it mean to you winning the Intercontinental Championship 8 days after the incident? Because you see, you literally streamed to the sky. Obviously, you talk in the podcast about how close you guys were. Like, you literally wrestled his last match with him. So what did that mean to you among the myriad of championship wins that you have had in your career?
You can't really put it into words on, at that stage in my career in 99, I'd been wrestling 13, 14 years and, won the regional titles and, whether go to Japan or Puerto Rico or Texas. And then obviously the first time I won it against Razor, but and I went into, as you said, I went into really deep, some really deep discussions about that, obviously, as you're aware, on my world, but I didn't really process at the time, but I know the overwhelming of emotion because, you know, what was going on prior to that. Me and Owen had been teaming and he was doing the Blue Blazer. You know, I'll just say that the Intercontinental title wasn't in the cards or wasn't in the plans. And so when that opportunity hit, it was overwhelming. And it played out right on the whole world to see. So of course it was special, but much more special than winning the Intercontinental title. And no disrespect, it's, to me, it's still in a lot of ways the second most prestigious belt in the world. And yes, there's a Raw belt and a SmackDown belt, and no disrespect to any of that, but the Intercontinental title for me, and this is for me, has such a special lineage from, I mean, we can call it on, but Kurt Hennig and Roddy Piper and Brett and Shawn and Razor and just, you know, Stone Cold and Rock, and just how it was through the years. And in a lot of years, The Miz, I think, gave it a lot of respect. And so it's a special title in the annals of professional wrestling. But for me to win it under those circumstances, I mean, Spencer, you hit the nail on the head. It goes without saying. I can't really put it into words how special it was.
Obviously the circumstances that it comes out of is terrible, but man, it means a lot to hear that too. Like we were talking before the show started, like you're talking to an Albertan about a heart. I don't think you need to say anything more than that.
I just want to say, Spencer, I'm very jealous of you. Sometimes you get to sit down with some of the coolest people and talk about, you know, just deep dive into, you know, a lot of what they're thinking and what they're saying, you know, especially for those times.
Appreciate it, dude.
It's an amazing thing. I do have a question for the room and for anybody in the chat. Like Joe was talking about this 12-man battle royal, and you know, there's bound to be surprises. Who do you want to see show up? You know, do we want to see? You know, he just got released, a Braun Strowman. Do we want to see him in NWA, or you know, Joe? What do you think?
Let me unmute myself so you guys can actually hear me. For me,
what was that?
Good call.
For me, the first name right off the hop that comes to mind, I know it's a little soon. I don't know what the contract status is, but I mean, if you could get Bronson Reed in there, I mean, I think he would be a shoe-in for the NWA. I mean, that would be awesome for me. Or, I mean, if you want to get a little bit more outlandish, for me, it's Daniel Bryan. If you could get Daniel Bryan in the NWA, I would be extremely happy. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think personally, I was going to the Bryan Danielson route just because of his style, and that's what I always looked at the NWA style as. You know what? Just because I think the guy has more punch than a lot of people, I would love to see Buddy Murphy. I think he would be a great add and a great get for the NWA as well.
It's a great shout. It's a really great shout. I like this one. Sorry to steal the thunder here, Alex. Fuego del Sol needs to be in there. And then you got a fan in there as well, Mighty Joe. Good call for Bronson Reed.
I think it's a good call.
I like it. Sorry, Alex. I needed to handle my production duties. The question giving is back to you.
I also have a question for you guys, just to tail on that. If Adam Cole is not to re-sign with WWE, what about Adam Cole in NWA?
No, it would also be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be very.
I'd watch that guy wrestle. I'd watch that guy wrestle Superhuman. So nonetheless, wrestling people with actual talented wrestling training.
Superhuman. Don't get me started.
I need to find that clip now. That's interesting. Bobby, throwing the question to you. Who do you want to see?
It's another great shout
out.
Yeah,
everyone's going big names, and I agree with a lot of the ones you guys are picking and stuff like that. I mean, Daniel Bryanson would be great to see show up on a show like this and everything. Obviously, an Adam Cole or a Bobby Fish are fantastic options as well. I'm going to go a little bit more personal. The stretcher, Robert Martyr. He's a wrestler down in Florida. I had the chance to interview him a few months back. This guy's got such a love for the history of professional wrestling and idolizes a lot of the guys that grew up through the system of the NWA and the territory days. And his work rate and the stuff that he does inside the ring are absolutely perfectly fit for the NWA. And while it wouldn't be a big name surprise for them, it would be a great addition to their already fantastic roster there as well.
Awesome. And Lawrence.
Goodbye.
Well, enough of that. Spencer, what do you think?
I'll toss it back to Lawrence.
Bailey, but you've lost my presence.
All right, great shout. Ric
Way
Flair.
to scramble his eggs in Sunday brunch.
It's a rib. It's a rib.
In all honesty, man, I know he's been there before. I don't know, but there was certainly speculation that he didn't leave on the most positive of terms. I'd love to see Royce Isaacs back in the NWA. If we're talking about former talent, if we're talking about people who would be like a maybe more left field selection than some of the names that were presented, but I just thought he fit in so well with that promotion. I think he'd be a fantastic shout to get back in there. Any of the big names or any of the names that were recently released from WWE would fit in well there, and they'd bring eyes to the NWA. I don't really think that you can. I don't think you can really discount any of them, to be honest with you. Like even a guy like the now going by No Way, could he fit in there in a promotion that has often featured some people with some goofier tendencies in a battle royal situation? Yeah, why not? I think there's a time and place for stuff like that. Not really anyone that comes to mind that wouldn't, to be honest.
I have one that's kind of nostalgic, and we kind of saw it recently in WWE. But what about Carlito?
Good shout. Is he working as a producer for them officially?
I don't know. That's why
I know
I'm
he
asking.
had like. And that's. I guess I am doubling down on you asking. I really don't know, because I know that after WrestleMania 36 or the Rumble, whatever it was, he had the match the night after, and he was rumored to be there on a tryout. But I've got no idea about after. Couple good shouts. One that I really liked.
Yeah,
let's see Heidenreich.
Only if he does poetry.
Jesus.
Only accept him if he does
Poetry
poetry. Yep.
That will also be the only way.
Of a promo is Heidenreich.
That will also be. That will be the only way we get Lanny Poffo in there as well. Christopher Daniels, I'd love to see it. I've got all the time in the world for Christopher Daniels. That guy's an all-time
Scorpio
talent.
Sky. No, he's done some stuff with the NWA before. He'd be a good pick to just be part of that battle royal.
How about
I have no
CM
issue with
Punk?
that.
Let's just do
Tammy
that. Somebody had to say it.
You can throw
Somebody
Tammy
had
in there
to.
too.
I really don't know what
Yo,
the
Raj.
relationship there is with the NWA and AEW anymore. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like, if Thunder Rosa officially went over and signed with AEW, like, I'd have to assume she's not working any NWA coming forward. Serena Deeb, I really don't know what the situation there is either, since she lost the championship. She's appeared on AEW. I don't believe, and again, maybe someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe she's been on NWA programming since then.
I don't think so.
Don't believe so.
I really
but I
don't know.
if it's soured any of the relationships either, because I believe Camille's been spotted in the audience at a lot of AEW.
Well, yeah,
recent tapings and stuff too.
she's working with Layla Hirsch, so I don't know if it's even just like a women's championship specific thing right now, where if you're the champion, you can travel to the territory of AEW or whatever it might be. I'm just speculating here. I got no real insight nor idea.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any ideas on who you would like to see in the NWA 12-man Battle Royal at NWA 73, feel free to give them a shout. We're always happy to take your comments, questions, concerns.
You had mentioned it, Spencer. It really does feel like we've kind of gone back to the territory days with the way things are right now. It very much has that feel. I know I'm stretching maybe a little bit with that, but with people kind of venturing elsewhere, and it has that feel to it, and I'm all for it. But like Bobby had just said too, sometimes with these kind of deals, they can go sour too if only one side is benefiting and the other side is kind of getting hosed, right? So, interesting to say the very least.
Have to ask you all, given that one, like there was always, and there certainly still are some things that I would like to see done differently with this whole all elite wrestling forbidden door thing that we're all going through right now. But thoughts on Christian Cage winning the Impact Championship? What's your temperature on that one, to steal a phrase from the great folks at Putting You Over? How are you guys feeling? I'm going to start with, Parrish, I don't think I've started with you on anything yet, so I'm going to start with you there.
Okay, so this is going to be a loaded answer because this was basically the topic of the ride home last night.
Parrish, it's only 11:50 in the morning. I hope it's not loaded quite yet. I hope it's like maybe a casual mimosa.
No, it's a single, double, triple home run loaded. Bases. Yeah, I went baseball with the bases.
I'm going to go call our sponsors.
We're so loaded that you might get out of shape, so you might want to check RK Athletics set to get back in shape after that one. There we go. That's how I bring it back full circle. But I just thought it was really funny to watch an AEW show featuring two AEW workers with the Impact Championship on the line. And then I also thought, well, this is just awesome because Christian Cage is awesome. And it's just great to see him. He is the perfect guy to really hold that Impact Championship, to help go back to an Impact and maybe put over a Josh Alexander and help elevate the talent there.
Yeah.
And then I also said, well, you know what? This is 10 years to the day where he last was World Heavyweight Champion to now where he's Impact Champion.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. That's right. That's really cool.
But at the same time, when are we going to see Impact guys benefit out of this merger or this thing with AEW? Because this is really starting to make me wonder what's the point when Impact guys really don't get a true rub out of here. So there has to be a payoff somehow, and I'm waiting for that one. And that's where I'm very confused on what's this doing for Impact Wrestling.
Kind of one-sided.
I am as much of a Christian Cage. Like I love me some Christian. Objectively to me, like Kenny Omega is arguably the biggest wrestling name in the world right now. Like it's him, Roman Reigns, like those sorts of guys are in that conversation. I would have thought that, like you said, Parrish, maybe an Alexander or a Chris Bay or someone like that might have been the guy to beat Kenny Omega. Not that I think that it's by any means a bad thing to beat Christian Cage for the Impact World title. I just think that like beating potentially the biggest pro wrestler in the world, like it's again like a really awkward way to put it, but like that's the biggest thing you can do, So I'm interested. I'm certainly interested, and by no means am I upset that Christian Cage is Impact World Champion and TNA Heavyweight Champion. Let's not forget that those titles are unified. There's still two belts. I am certainly curious, though, as to where they're going to go with this one.
And
Mighty Joe, I know that you had some thoughts, too, so we'll move to you after Parrish gets here.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, at what point do they just go to the one championship? Because at some point
they'll redesign it would be my thought. Yeah, I'd have to think it'll be when there's like a title redesign.
When maybe an Impact guy actually wins the championship back, I think would be the perfect time.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Before we get started, Mighty Joe, there are a couple of comments in here as well. I like the one you threw in here, Parrish. You wouldn't hate to see Big Money Matt in the NWA have like the boss hog feel. Drew, good to see you as well. He's certainly agreeing with you. And I always like to throw our fan comments up there. It's a fantastic idea, Parrish. Screenshot this one for anytime you make a correct pick on the POS show, because I
don't need it. I got this, brother.
With you. Oh, back off. And Conrad hopping in. I don't think that that's a bad timeline for it. Like Parrish said, when an Impact superstar wins it, or an Impact wrestler wins it, excuse me, I could see that. I still think that it could be Chris Bay. And I'm 50-50 on that one, but like the Bullet Club move, having Switchblade there consistently, I could see Chris Bay being the next Impact champion. I don't know, though. I really, really don't know, though. And Ed hopping in as well. I just don't think Impact wanted to book Brian Myers versus Omega for Friday. Couldn't tell you. I'd watch it. I've got no issue there. Thursday. Ha! Nicely played. Mighty Joe, I'm sorry. We've teased it for a while, but let's get to you as well. And I do, just to qualify on here as well, Andre, I did see your question. I'll also, if anybody has opinions, throw in there on NJPW Resurgence. Please feel free to throw them out there as well, because I personally haven't watched. I know Osprey's back. That's about the only highlight I've seen so far. So that's quite literally my afternoon, is I'll be watching Resurgence. So, Mighty Joe, after that much lead up, you get the big screen.
My worry, and I hate to be the negative one of the group here, but like it feels like AEW and all these other promotions are really benefiting off the talents in Impact, but it feels like Impact is not really benefiting from any of this partnership at all. I mean, maybe there'd be some to disagree with me, but like I just say, it feels just like everybody's poaching, using, and even the belts on every other program, but then it feels like Impact is just kind of still just there. Like nothing against Impact Wrestling, but at some point, you got to focus on being your own promotion as well, right? Would anybody agree with me on that?
I agree with you on that.
Impact
I think
is the Canada of wrestling
Co-promotion is
promotions.
cool.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at some point too, you need to focus on your own product, right? Too, otherwise you get caught.
You at least give a little
I
bit
will
of a,
back up. I will back up, though. I think Impact's been a great product. How you get more eyes on it, I'm really not certain. It's the reason I'm not a promoter by any means. But like, I will argue there too. I have my issues with the way the heavyweight championship has been presented sometimes. Yeah. I'd love to see, I've been picking this bone and I ain't unique in it, but I want to see Deonna and Britt Baker square off at some point. I think that women's division has been a bit of a missed opportunity. But I will say that Impact has been holding its own as far as a program goes. I just think there needs to be a way more people see it, if that makes some sense.
For sure.
And a fair comment as well. And I'll throw it back to you, Alex. Sorry to interrupt, but Conrad hopping in. I would disagree with this only because I feel Impact has more eyes on it now than it has in the last few years. A few years ago, you would never hear podcasts even mention what this company is doing. I think that's been
not the company.
I think it's been about a couple years that's been going on, to be honest. Like the best reference point I have, and it was Seward because of it, but like they had a ton of eyes on him too when Tessa was going for the heavyweight championship, when Taya was running game with the Knockouts title. I think they had a really, really fantastic run there too. But I would agree. I would agree that at the very least, they certainly have more buzz around them. Whether or not that's resulted directly in more eyes, man, I can't even begin to explain my lack of knowledge on TV ratings now, nonetheless, the last few years. So batting out of my weight class there, so I'm throwing it back to Alex.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I agree with Joe. Like, Impact isn't really getting much from this. I mean, when it all first started and you had Kenny Omega on your Impact television, everybody might have been tuning in, but now it's just kind of like, okay, well, where's kind of the payoff, or where's the rub for your Impact guys? Let's bring more of them over to AEW, especially if this door is wide open, as they say. I want to see a Sami Callihan on my AEW. I want to see Josh Alexander or Chris Bay, or even a Brian Myers and a Matt Cardona, even though Matt has already been to AEW. But I want to see these guys intertwining and mingling with the AEW talent. Imagine the matches we could get. Chris Bay versus Jungle Boy kind of thing, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it's a weird way to put it, but you almost need to commit one way or the other. Is it going to be like a full-on invasion, or are we only going to see maybe one or two talents cross over? I know they've done it before too, and Matt Hardy's crossed over and Private Party's crossed over, and there have been those instances. But they're instances more than a consistent thing. And I think that whether you go for more consistency or you start to maybe taper off a little bit, I think like a lot of us have alluded to, there's maybe the need to I hate the phrase because it always seems negative and I don't mean it to be, but like pick a lane with it almost. Bobby, Lawrence, I know we haven't really dug on you guys for this one, so I'll let you guys get the last two thoughts on this.
And then we're going to get into plugging what we've got coming up here on Love Wrestling. Now, of course, we've got about 5 minutes left when we start to give the ye old plugs. So we're going to go and raid Sledge tentatively, Ring of Honor wrestler. He's a former interview guest of mine, a great individual. So we're going to go support him after this if you are tuned in on Twitch. But Bobby, we'll go to you first. Lawrence, we'll let you close her out.
Okay, so I feel like, yeah, there was a comment about more eyes being on Impact as a result of these crossovers. And I believe that's 100% true, that there definitely be more eyes on the product. I think what ends up happening, though, is we're falling into overbooking of the same talents coming across, because AEW now has, 2 national television spots plus their YouTube show, plus now they're rating television time from Impact. I think it actually takes away from the actual talent on Impact, makes their star power go down, while only utilizing that AEW talent that is consistently on AEW programming week after week. There needs to be more of this crossover talent being done between the 2 channels and stuff like that, between the 2 shows, having AEW guys versus Impact guys, utilizing that more to bring up new talent so that we can have a lot more variety when it comes down to booking down in the future.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with you, man. Lawrence, the final word on the Forbidden Door.
Yeah, like
See how heavy I made that feel? Now there's a lot of weight.
I feel
Lots of
heavier.
pressure.
Yeah.
Lots of pressure on you, man. Close it out eloquently.
Yeah, no, I agree that pretty much everyone here that I think they've probably gained money off of this deal. I think it has gotten a lot more people talking about the product than like more casual wrestling fans who weren't necessarily following Impact before are now talking about it and had more interest. But yes, they do need to bring in the Impact has great talent. Chris Bay is a star. He can easily challenge for that belt. He'd be great against Omega. I'd like to see him against Omega coming up. But yeah, if they just highlight the Impact talent a little more with those AEW guys, and even like bring some more over onto one of the shows that they have, I would love to see that. If they bring them onto the Friday night show and have them like do something there.
Dark Elevation. Yeah, they're like, Bobby, you alluded to it as well. There's all of these opportunities to get them on there. And I think that we're all at least mostly in consensus that whether you want to pick one way or the other, there are some dream matches left on the table that we all want to see, whether they're on AEW, whether they're on Impact, or anything in between. Friends, there's lots of great stuff coming up this week on Love Wrestling. And I know I say that every week, but that's a good problem to have when every week there's some great stuff coming up on Love Wrestling. Drew, thanks for tuning in. It is always appreciated when you take the time for us, friend. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you sooner rather than later. But until then, you can stay up to date with some of our pre-recorded and live content. Starting tomorrow, I've got Double J Jeff Jarrett with an exclusive interview on my end of things, and then another loaded Tuesday here on Love Wrestling. Dylan Fry of the For the Guy Foundation, an individual I've worked with for a couple of years. He's going to be joining me on the Mind Behind to talk about our previous work and the work we're going to be doing trying to send a deserving youth to WrestleMania this year. We've got Power Out and the War Report coming on Tuesday. Wednesday sees the War Report return as well. And Joe, I'll turn to you after we've got the graphic on screen to give us a little on Turnbuckle Rewind this week. Ella J joins on Between Two Beards. I am very, very excited for that one. They're going to be previewing SummerSlam. 3 great individuals instead of the usual 2. I do consider Mr. Mighty Joe, the producer, a off-screen talent for these purposes. Kaya McKenna joins me on Friday as well for another great interview, The Good Witch. She trains at the Black and Brave Academy under Seth Rollins and Merrick Brave. It was a great chat with her. And then on Saturday, Viva Las Vegas, myself and JPJ are tentatively slated for a live edition of the POS show as a number 1 contenders match for Chris Parrish's championship. And that could change. Plans are subject. We do a show on Tuesday. He made that call. I abide. I want that title back in my hands, and however I can make it happen, I am going to make it happen. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later, but Parrish has, honestly just been kicking ass lately. Mighty Joe, I'm going to turn to you for a little bit on Turnbuckle Rewind and what you guys have coming up on the audio and video end this week.
It's a fun one. Since I kind of hinted at it before, people seem to be really excited about it. We're going back to TNA Impact. specifically the Unbreakable show from 2005, with a matchup for the X Division Championship between AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels. And that is just 3 minute a match that you can't go wrong with. So you guys are in for a treat on that one, and it's going to be really cool to break it down.
Love you, Andre, but I really hope, for my sake, that Parrish is not the Love Wrestling champion for life. Hopefully, it is for a shorter amount of time. I quite like having that title on my mantelpiece. However, I will abide by the rules that Parrish sets and by the rules of the POS show. Drew, yeah, I don't disagree. And let's just remember the inventor of the parachute, Riddick Moss. We see you. Friends, of course, we want to get to you guys.
He does his homework very well.
That's fair. Studying the best of the Canadian independent scene, and I think that is a great place for us to transition to you, Mr. Parrish, for where people can keep track of you, whether it's on Love Wrestling, whether it's online, or whether it is inside the professional wrestling ring. How can they do it?
You can check out my socials at the Twitter at Chris Parrish, at the Instagram at Chris Parrish. Yeah, you can see way too much of me on the big screen here on Sunday Brunch. You can also follow me on Twitch at Chris Parrish. But yeah, make sure you're always checking into lovewrestling.ca for all the shows, because you never know which ones I'll pop into. As of last week, I mean, I made my Between Two Beards debut. So you just never know. And I'm pretty sure I kicked ass in the draft anyway. So, I mean, just, kicking that bereavable ass and chewing all that bubble gum, so to speak, if that's what you will.
Alex, I'm going to turn to you next. How can people keep up to date with you, friend?
Well, usually we have a show called Blowing Off Stream on Saturday, but that's getting the kibosh because of a little thing called SummerSlam. So
you pivoted it.
Yeah. But you can always find me on Reacts, Sunday Brunches, Blowing Off Stream when we're on. We've got something coming up special for Blowing Off Stream, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And for myself, I'm going to be combining my two loves, wrestling and action figures. And I've got something coming I'm working on with that. But you can always find me on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Epic Games, and Steam Games at EctoGuy87 everywhere.
Mighty Farm Equipment, Morin.
Well, for those wondering who that's from, that was actually last night from the Blowing Off Stream, and the H and the J are right beside each other on the keyboard, and that's what happened. So I just kind of rolled with it.
Big fingers,
right? But yeah, for my people, as you can see, my name is buried by our sponsor, by RK Athletics, but that's cool. You can find me at TV Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. When I'm not on here doing a variety of things for Love Wrestling, I'm also doing Turnbuckle Talk. I'm doing New Japan podcasts. I'm producing Two Beards. I got a lot going on, and it's a cool time to be busy, and it's an awesome time to love wrestling.
I couldn't agree with you more there, my friend. Big, bad, beautiful Bobby. Where can people find you?
So everybody, thanks first of all for having me on the show today, and hopefully be doing this a little bit more often. You can also check me out with my co-host Papa Smokes over at the Video Bros Network. We do Ring Respect Radio every once in a while, talking about some old school wrestling over there. And also check out my work with Prairie Pro Wrestling. Hopefully we'll be back to live shows here soon and be back on the commentary team as well, calling the matches once again for a lot of the great local talent here in Western Canada as well. So thanks for having me, and great to be on the show, guys.
Good to have you, my friend, and hope to have you again. Lawrence, certainly last, but certainly not least.
The straight sex appeal of Love Wrestling, as I now go by legally. Why is that a joke, Spencer? You can follow me at NDG on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on a lot of the weekend streams, and I'll be on Sunday Brunch next week, breaking down SummerSlam and setting up the takeover show on Sunday. There it is.
Absolutely, friend. If you friends out in the comment section on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube want to keep up to date with the latest and greatest we've got on Love Wrestling, of course, you get a little amuse-bouche of it here on Sunday Brunch. You know what we've got coming to you, but make sure you follow it, make sure you watch it, make sure you listen to it, make sure you read it, make sure you check it out anywhere that audio is listened to or videos are played at Love Wrestling CA. If you want it all in one fell swoop, you can find it on the website. That is lovewrestling.ca for the latest and greatest from around the world of professional wrestling. As I mentioned, if you're tuned in on Twitch, we're going to go and be hanging out with a friend of ours from the Ring of Honor community, Sledge. He's got some stuff going on with Danhausen and PCO as they pursue the six-man tag team championships, trios titles, whatever you would like to call them. But we're going to go and hang out with him as he has coffee here on this Sunday morning. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, thank you for tuning in. It is always, always, always appreciated with so much pro wrestling content out there that you've taken an hour and now 9 minutes. God, we're over our match time today, brothers. That you guys have taken an hour and 9 minutes out of your day. Well, we got to wrap this up then in 20 seconds. So thank you guys for tuning in. It is always appreciated with so much content out there. We're going to go hang out with Sledge if you're on Twitch, if you're on Facebook and YouTube. You're going to see the music for Parrish, for Alex, for Mighty Ho Morin, for Bobby Munson, and for the straight sex appeal, Lawrence. Here's the music. Thanks for tuning in.